Cuomo, welcome to NewsNation. This is where right and left come to be reasonable. And may I say, happy Cinco de Mayo. Now, some of you may respond in kind. Oh, and happy Cinco de Mayo to you. Others may wonder why in America we would celebrate Mexican Independence Day, as Congress formally recognized the historical significance in 2005 of Cinco de Mayo. But why? Then we have who this show and NewsNation are actually built for, the truly independent critical thinkers who curiously say with a wry smile, oh, this day is an example of the game. Cinco de Mayo is, in fact, an example of how we play with the difference between perception and reality. Basically, the rule of perception versus reality is this. You have the way things appear, the way you are told they are, and then the way they actually are. Now, sometimes these three overlap. Sometimes they bear no relation to one another. For instance, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, is a holiday that's an excuse for many of us here to wear big hats, drink tequila and beer, and eat chips and guac, right? Queso. But how'd we get here? By celebrating Mexico's Independence Day, many believe, except that that's not what Cinco de Mayo is celebrating. Mexican Independence Day is September 16th, and even that doesn't make much sense to me because Mexico celebrates on September 16th its independence from Spain, which occurred in 1810, but they weren't really truly independent. Why? Because the French wound up taking control some 50 years later or so, albeit briefly. The point is, May 5th, okay, Cinco de Mayo commemorates the Battle of Puebla. Mexico actually won. Zaragoza was leading them, and it was a big surprise against the French, but it wasn't the decisive battle. The Mexicans wound up losing to the French and being ruled by Maximilian. Confusing, right? Why celebrate it? In fact, a recent poll found that 40% of us, only 40% of us know that Cinco de Mayo is not about Mexico's independence. So even with those who aren't ignorant, why do they go along with it? Why do we care in America? Congress said it's to honor Mexican heritage with a nowhere battle that didn't lead them to their own victory. It takes us to the real answer, the third version, the gravamen, the crux. We celebrate this as an excuse for another Hallmark holiday that allows people to sell stuff like chips and guac and happy hours. So you see, Cinco de Mayo appears to be one thing, is explained as another, and yet it is really about something else entirely. This happens to us all the time, especially in a world of competing narratives. Trump's deportation efforts. No question it matters to many in this America, but America has also been convinced that this is something you really have to worry about. The president says he wants to get rid of all illegal entrants, 10 million, 12 million, 15 million, 20 million, whatever number you want to believe. Under the guise of what? Bad hombres, criminality, national security. The left says, no, Trump is using deportation as a wedge, as a phobia, and as a cover. Cover for what? To take power from the other branches, subvert the Constitution, become a dictator. Now, in their defense, President Trump does make it easy to project dark intentions onto him by saying things like this.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. If you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
Even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
Did Trump allow his critics to say he just said he doesn't know if he wants to defend the Constitution? Yes. Yes, he did give them the ability. The same way he did with the MS-13 stuff by insisting it's written on the knuckles when it isn't. But what really matters? Okay? I'm not giving him a pass, but he didn't mean that he doesn't think he's supposed to defend the Constitution. And I can't believe that the NBC reporter had to rely on Secretary Rubio for her understanding that everyone here on American soil gets due process. No, that's in the Constitution, okay? Everyone in an American jurisdiction, every person, not citizen, every person is entitled to due process. How much? In what way? That is the debatable concern that we should be having. Not Rubio says it. It's in the Constitution. Read it. Now, Trump is saying, I don't know that I agree with what you're saying the Constitution demands. He's not saying he doesn't want to defend the Constitution. The truth is enough. You don't have to make up a narrative to distort something that not only isn't what he's saying it is, but is both are not what this thing is in reality. So what is it? What's the immigration thing for Trump, the mass deportation thing? It's about Trump showing strength and delivering on a campaign promise. It's not part of a grand plan or a vision. Trump wasn't saying what NBC wants to pretend he was saying and all his critics about the Constitution and defending it. He was saying he doesn't agree with that. Now, look, I think he's wrong, okay, on the law and on what would be good policy, but who cares what I think? It's a separate issue. The reality is, this is just about playing to perception of doing a lot about an exaggerated problem. The left wants to say he wants to destroy the Constitution. He wants to say, no, it's about bringing back law and order and protecting American workers. Listen, do illegal entrants commit crimes? Yes. Do legal entrants, immigrants, commit crimes? Yes. Both commit crimes at rates lower than citizens. You don't have to believe me. Believe the Cato Institute, a conservative think tank. They did the study. Go read it, okay? The overwhelming majority of people who enter illegally, okay, wrongfully, are helping communities. And they do not qualify for federal benefits. I know what you hear on Twitter. It's bull. And not to mention, we have millions of open jobs and are near full employment. So clearly we need people. The idea that getting rid of everybody makes sense logistically, legally, politically, or practically is really a dubious notion. Illegal immigrants represent 14% of our construction workers. We already have a shortfall. 13% of agricultural workers. We have a huge shortfall without them there. 7% of hospitality workers. 7 million openings in America with them here. Do you understand? This is about the politics of fear, xenophobia, a misplaced sense of making advantage for the American worker. Same with tariffs. It looks like Trump is just taking on everyone because he thinks that doing a lot is doing well. Captain Chaos. He says, no, it's about bringing back manufacturing. But what is it really? It's really an example of doing a lot without a plan. Okay? That's what it is. It's overreach of a single tactic. Tariffs can work. They got to be targeted, they got to be specific, and they got to be a consequence. He used them right off the bat. Why? That's Trump. And there was no one around him to rein him in. And I don't care what you say about Scott Bessent. He clearly isn't running the ship. Okay? I'm telling you, I know as a matter of fact that what we are living through is not part of a White House strategy. This is not how they plan for it to go. And I still think it gets worse for us as consumers. Okay? Oh, but wait a minute. Look at all the billions and billions that companies are saying they're going to invest here. Clearly they worked. Are they doing that because of the tariffs or despite them? Ask the companies. Okay? They're looking for incentives and opportunities, and the administration is offering them. You didn't hear that part, did you? And by the way, when are they going to invest? How long is it going to take? And what is it going to mean for who gets to work there? These are all unknowns. Okay? Now, Trump's latest tariff move came last night. He ordered his administration to start the process of tariffing movies made in foreign lands by 100%, claiming it is a national security risk. How is making movies somewhere else dangerous to you and me? Hollywood is often pushing out propaganda, right? That's kind of what movies are and stories. And that's certainly what Trump thinks. But his intent to revitalize Hollywood is fine. But why would you call it a national security issue? 18,000 Hollywood jobs have disappeared since the pandemic. Why? Because it was made too hard here, and it was made easier elsewhere. So what is the purpose of the tariff? Is it to bring back Hollywood jobs? Is it to protect national security? I don't know how it could be protecting national security. But if you want to bring back the jobs, why don't you make it better for them here than it is somewhere else? That's why they left. Nobody is anxious to pick up and go make movies in Toronto or in some other country if they could make them here. Make it easier for them to do it here. My son's home from college. He's calling me. He doesn't care that I'm on TV. So, look, I don't know what matters more to Trump, but I'm telling you, you got to see this con that is put on you, not just by Trump. There is what you're told it is, what it kind of appears to be in that context, and then what it really is, okay? And you have to get wise to the game. Now, this has competing narratives. The Democrats seem to be all in on bashing Trump. That's all they know. They can't get away from it because he's too tempting a target. But it's not building a base for them that can lead to the majority. They lost the popular vote against Trump. No one saw that coming, and it probably should have never happened. So what is their response? Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker sitting on the front steps talking for half a day? Cory Booker talking for over a day about things that I can't even remember one thing he said? AOC and Bernie Sanders trying to do MAGA 2.0? This is how the Democrats respond in a way that gets them to a better place? Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.